Hey YouTube, it's me, it's the man who likes to RANT, dropping a brand new VID for you today. And I want to take some time. I don't normally do this because I usually save my reviews for the big pay-per-views. But I do want to talk just for a little bit about last night's episode of Raw, more so in conjunction with a statement Vince McMahon made in regards to his company that has me very concerned about the current state of the WWE product. Excuse me. And that is, he made a statement that he is not currently concerned that Raw is at its lowest viewer rating ship that it has been in 15 years, I believe it is. Currently sitting at about 2 million viewers. Might be a little higher. You can correct me in the comments if you like. I'm sure there's statisticians out there that would love to correct any mistakes I make. And he's not concerned because he knows that when the four main talents that he has on the shelf are taking time off, be it Cena, Lesnar, Orton, and Rollins, come back, that the ratings are going to come back up. And that is true, but one would think, especially when you're in a business that is squarely focused on entertainment, that you would want the rating to be as high as possible. That way, when your big stars do come back and it is special, the rating can reach a new plateau. Possibly, well, I'll say at least closer to the viewing that we saw during the Monday Night Wars. I don't know what it's going to take to get back to those magic numbers, but I can tell you right now, WWE does not have it. So I want to talk about just a few things on Raw that really accentuate some of the good things that WWE is still doing and a lot of the bad things that WWE is currently doing. First of all, I want to talk about the return of Rusev. I was really hoping that with Lana and Rusev getting back together and their relationship being out in the open, that it would really kind of refocus Rusev and turn him back into the monster that he was when he first showed up in the company. And I still believe that can happen. However, his match with Ryback ended in a way that I'm like, really? That's your choice? Lana gets hurt, and don't get me wrong, from a sheer right and wrong and chivalrous versus non-chivalrous standpoint, Rusev did the right thing going to check on your fiance. That having been said, I really think it was an anticlimactic way to have the match end. At the very least, he could have checked on Lana, rolled into the ring to break the count, rolled back out, and did what he needed to do, as opposed to just giving the count-out victory to Ryback. But that didn't happen because no one has the sense to think of that. And also, I may add that adding Rusev to this United Nations stable that they have cooked up for Sheamus to have is really kind of a retcon, because if you go back to my review on the Madison Square Garden special, which I did in conjunction with the NXT special, and how quite mad I got at that, it wasn't all that long ago that these two seemed like they were going to be in a feud where they disliked each other, and now they're all buddy-buddy? I mean, don't get me wrong, I know heels tend to stick together so it can work, and I like the idea of the League of Nations. I said the idea. I am not a big fan of the execution, and here's why. It's a good thing for this stable to come together because it gives people like Barrett and Rusev and Del Rio an outlet to get more exposure. So that'll help them. However, I think what we're going to see with this group of wrestlers is they are going to consistently have to come in and save Sheamus from people like Roman Reigns or just about anybody who could be considered a threat to the world title. Now, some of you may be saying, well, Evolution did the same thing for Triple H, but here's the difference. Triple H, when Evolution was saving him time after time after time all those years ago, was suffering from a major groin injury, so he needed a little extra protection, but you couldn't afford to have the world champion come off TV. That's why Orton, Flair, and Batista were continuously coming in to get him disqualified to save the title. So that at least made sense. And when Triple H needed to, he could go out and get the job done on his own. Sheamus, I don't believe, is going to be capable of that. Sheamus is going to lean on these boys to no end until you finally get a match between him and Roman Reigns where they are either barred from ringside or unable to enter. You know, I would say Hell in a Cell, but that's already happened. Like a steel cage, a lumberjack match. You won't do an Inferno. Maybe you'll do a Ring of Fire. Like you did at SummerSlam. Lord knows that went over so well that you should never do it again. So that's one thing. The Divas Revolution. I liked Team Bad in the fact that it appears that Sasha has stepped up and become the boss of Team Bad. Now, they're going to do this whole unity thing, and by the way, Naomi said that enough times. I think you should keep the mic away from her anytime she thinks about singing the word unity like a damn opera star. Somebody go back and find me any successful opera character gimmick that worked in wrestling. If you can find it, you can post it in a video response to this. But I'm willing to bet you can't, because as deep as I am into wrestling, I never remember an opera singer getting over at all. And just in case you're wondering, the beginning of Santino Marella's entrance theme does not count. Does not count. Anyway, you know, I would call her the leader of Team Bad now, but that's not really an adequate reference to Miss Sasha Banks, because she is the most talented of the three. You know my feelings on Tamina. I believe she's absolutely useless. And unlike Charlotte, she actually needs her Hall of Fame daddy's name and reputation to even have a shot to be in this business. And unfortunately, as good an athlete as Naomi can be, when the most relevant thing you've done is marry one half of the best tag team you have in Jimmy and Jey Uso, I forget which one, but she married one of the Usos, and that is the most relevant thing she's done since dancing for Brodus Clay. Honestly, I don't know why Naomi's here, and here comes all the people who want to defend Naomi and all this, that, and the other. Look, I know she was good in NXT. I've gone back and watched all the episodes that are available on the network. She was good then. She's not good now, and it's not necessarily her fault. It's once again WWE giving their talent crap to work with and expecting them to turn chicken shit into chicken salad. It just can't happen. Now, I do believe that the chemistry that Roman Reigns and Sheamus showed in this rivalry leading up to their TLC match is good. It did good things for the title. And Sheamus was far more expressive than the bland character that people give him credit for being, and rightly so he is. This run as world champion might remind you why Sheamus has some redeeming qualities in him. He does. Triple H saw it. That's why he bothered to train him. So when he calls himself as the Authority's boy, which is what he is right now, there's some truth to that, because he's Triple H's boy, and Triple H has the second most say in the company behind Vince McMahon. So I get it, but for anybody who thinks Seth Rollins was booked weak as a champion, and believe me, you're not wrong in that way of thinking. He certainly was. I do believe that Sheamus will dwarf Rollins in his weakness, because he's going to be saved time after time after time. Some good things that were done. I'm putting this in the good question mark category, because that segment that Adam Rose had, it entertained me this week. It might entertain me for a few weeks. I don't see this being a long-term fix, But if they can somehow incorporate that and remind us that, oh yeah, Adam Rose used to wrestle and he used to win once in a while too. This is a character that, if you watch the ESPN Behind the Curtain special, which I do believe you can find on YouTube, is very Mick Foley-like in his journey. And I do believe that if Vince were to focus on that, because not everybody saw it, I'm sure, because you probably saw Adam Rose and you're like, well, I'm going to run before he starts partying. If you watched it, however, there are very similar parallels, and that could make Leo Kruger very likable into Vince McMahon and to WWE, and you could capitalize on that and turn him into a worthwhile character. Maybe as a result of that, people are trying to give him a second chance. So I hope something good comes of that. I do like how WWE has talked about how, since Roman lost the 5-minute and 15-second challenge for the world title, that all these other people are going to be affected. And they're not. The matches are still going to go off as advertised because they've been advertised for the event already. The good guys might have to resort to some chicanery on the bad guys to actually get it done, but it's still going to happen, as is evident by the fact that it was really never brought up again that since Roman didn't win the title, those other matches aren't going to happen. We know they are. We aren't that stupid. Vince, you began the Attitude Era because, in your words, wrestling fans were tired of having their intelligence insulted. Guess what? I'm going to come close so you can hear me. Nice and close. Look at this face. Look. We're still tired of having you insult our intelligence, and yet you continue to do it week after week. That great wrestling fan that I mentioned just a few minutes ago, Mick Foley, had a very interesting post on Facebook, which I know he took from someone else, but it doesn't matter. It's still relevant. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and over again, and naively expecting a different result to happen if you perform the experiment enough. If it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, and quacks like a duck, guess what? You've got yourself a fucking duck. And your product right now is a lame duck, Vince. And for you to focus on ratings, I know I'm jumping all over the place, but this is really just popping into my head. So this is probably the most ad-lib video I've ever done. For you to walk around with your product in the current lame duck fashion that it is, and recognize that, yes, the ratings will get better when your big stars come back, but I would think that a man who once had to focus on ratings so hard when WCW was breathing down your neck would want the company to be in as great a shape as it possibly could be for when the stars come back and can be elevated to a gold standard of some sort. But the fact that you're willing to sit back and be so blasé about it, which I understand why, because you work so hard to make WWE into the #1 wrestling brand, not only in the country, but in the world. And you've accomplished that mission, and good for you. You should be celebrated for that, because it's a huge accomplishment. It's a huge accomplishment in any sort of business to be #1. However, you want to continue to stay #1, and to do that, you have to re-attract your audience, and you do that by giving us compelling storylines that make sense and aren't wiped away from week to week because you get a whim up your ass to decide, nope, we're going to do it this way because I'm Vince McMahon and I know the future, and watch my corn cob walk. I just did the bushwhacker thing because I'm sitting down. Watch my corn cob walk as I walk down the aisle, because Lord knows I can't run because I'll break my freaking calves again. Vince, if you continue to take this lackadaisical attitude, I have a feeling that at some point someone is going to suggest a hashtag resignation of Vince McMahon on Twitter. And if this sort of attitude continues, people are going to gain credence. And if you keep your attitude around the board of directors, the people who can supersede you in the effort in the sense that if they see the company fail, they can ask you to step down and a new person be brought into your place, I highly suggest that this avenue begin to be explored Because, Vince, you have lost the plot if this is truly where you stand on this issue. Anyway, the rest of Raw was pretty average. I mean, here's the thing. The in-ring action is good. I go so far as to say that Raw and WWE in general has the deepest roster that it's had in years. And that includes the roster that's waiting to be called up in NXT. There are only a few exceptions of talent, which I've mentioned before, in NXT that need a lot of work. The rest of you are like that far away from being a sheer money draw in WWE. But they are misguiding people in their efforts, and they are not giving them the tools. I will agree that the TVPG era, which I have touted as a big problem, and it is a problem. It is not the biggest problem in the clockwork of WWE. It's that while you're trying to keep yourself more family-friendly, which I do respect because it does open up more revenue-creating avenues for you down the road, you have taken your wrestlers' tools, their ways they generate heat, the blood, the violence towards each other. I just mentioned it twice, but that really can generate heat on a heel. Having a heel act like a heel by choking people and gouging their eyes out, stuff I watched back in the 80s and 90s. It worked then, it can still work now, and I don't know why you're continuing to shy away from this product. This line of thinking. You can fix it, Vince, and you have the power. All you need to do is get off your butt and really take a look. Because wrestlers do this because they're passionate about the business. But I think if you took a poll among your employees and asked them honestly what they thought, it has really just become another form of work, another 9 to 5 to be completed so you can provide for your family, and you have sucked them out, the passion completely out of your talent. Or if you haven't, you're dangerously close. Oh, there is one more good aspect I wanted to talk about, because I do think that they're in the process of turning Becky Lynch heel and having her partner up with Paige to counter Charlotte. I see this being a good thing because it will work out like Sasha and Becky's partnership did on NXT. I think it'll bring out her aggressiveness. It'll bring out her personality because she'll have all this frustration built up that she can then express to the audience. And then down the road, several months from now, when it comes down to Paige and Becky for the title, you can have a more organic heel turn. Organic face turn like you had in NXT. This will help Becky become more relevant because she really is a good wrestler, and unfortunately, Raw and SmackDown have not taken advantage of this red-headed lass's butt-kicking ability since bringing her up to the main roster, and that is sad. But I look for it to change really soon, because if Paige is backing someone, secretly WWE knows that's good for business, because one of your biggest stars in the world has endorsed Paige, that being The Rock when she first showed up, and thusly I would think that would grant her a large portion of approval with WWE Creative. So, for all these reasons, WWE can be fixed. But the line between genius and disaster is that thin, and you've got your big toe flirting with the line. You can't see it because I'm sitting down, because I have to, because I can't stand up and do these things. But your big toe is already across the line, and it's slowly teasing the rest of you. Come, step back, reevaluate, and realize what you're doing isn't working and hasn't worked for a long time. New steps need to be taken. New ideas need to be brought in. And it all falls on your shoulders, Vince, until you step down or until you wise up. Ranter, off the soapbox. Catch y'all later. Bye-bye.